A brand new 2026 Kia Sportage arrives at the dealership for its third service visit in 3 months. The owner is sitting in the loaner they gave her. It is the Nissan Rogue she traded in when she bought the Kia. She had 2 Rogues over 8 years with no significant problems. The Kia locked itself in drive at an intersection. It lit up the dashboard with warnings the service department could not resolve. A recall notice arrived within a month of delivery because the seat had a documented risk of catching fire. She is 7 months pregnant and she already has a toddler to transport. She just paid $140 for a tow to a dealership 5 minutes from her house. What she wants is a different car, not the same one repaired for the 3rd time. That is a completely reasonable position. What makes this story notable is not that it is unusual. It is that it is not. Versions of it appear continuously across forums, owner reviews, and comment sections for nearly every major brand on the market right now, including brands that spent decades building quality reputations they are now living off while delivering something measurably worse. The J.D. Power 2024 Initial Quality Study recorded 192 problems per 100 vehicles. That is the highest rate in 8 years. Average transaction prices crossed $48,000 at the same time. Consumer Reports data consistently shows vehicles from 2015 through 2019 outperforming newer models at the same ownership age. The Chevy engine lifter failures, the wave of documented Kia and Hyundai reliability complaints, and sustained Ford quality issues are not isolated component failures. They reflect decisions made broadly across the industry about what modern vehicles need to be, how complex they should be, and how long they actually need to last before you are back in the market. Even Toyota issued a mass recall on 4-cylinder hybrid engines in a recent model year. Toyota was the global durability benchmark against which everything else was measured for decades. The manufacturers producing the most reliable vehicles on Earth a decade ago are now chasing the same software-heavy feature-saturated architecture that turned American brands into cautionary tales a generation earlier. There is a reason quality is declining while prices keep climbing. Understanding it requires looking honestly at who the engineering decisions actually benefit. The features added to modern vehicles were designed around the manufacturer's business model, not your ownership experience. Auto Start Stop is the clearest example. The system shuts the engine off at every red light and restarts it when you release the brake. Manufacturers use it to hit regulatory emissions targets and improve fuel economy numbers on a window sticker. The real ownership experience is different. It involves accelerated wear on starter motors, added stress on batteries and alternator systems, and a driving sensation that makes the vehicle feel like it is malfunctioning every time you stop in traffic. You cannot permanently disable it on most vehicles. Every time you start the car, you are manually turning the system off again. The components it adds will eventually fail and need service. The fuel savings over a year of actual driving are negligible at best. The system exists because it helps manufacturers meet compliance targets, not because you benefit from it in any meaningful way. Lane Keep Assist operates on the same basic logic. Under controlled testing conditions, the safety data supports it and the regulatory compliance value for manufacturers is real. But real-world driving involves moments when you move the wheel immediately and without signaling because another vehicle is cutting across your lane at speed and there is no time for anything except reacting. A system that actively fights the steering in that moment is not a safety feature. It is an additional hazard at exactly the wrong time. Drivers across forums describe vehicles genuinely resisting necessary evasive maneuvers on mainstream Honda, Toyota, and other models with historically strong safety reputations. The feature is installed across nearly the entire market because it contributes to safety ratings and satisfies regulatory requirements, not because drivers requested it or because it reliably improves outcomes in every situation. Touchscreens replace physical controls for reasons manufacturers have not been direct about. A single-screen interface is substantially cheaper to produce than buttons and knobs and dedicated controls. It also gives manufacturers the ability to add, restrict, or monetize features through software updates after your vehicle has already been sold and paid for. What disappears from your experience is the ability to adjust climate or audio without taking your eyes off the road to navigate software menus. Proximity sensors and automated parking systems that override driver input show up constantly in owner forums. The scenario repeats. You are trying to park in a tight space when sensors detect an obstacle and the vehicle shifts itself into park, locking you out of control at precisely the moment you need it most. The feature exists to prevent minor contact with obstacles and regularly creates situations where you are fighting the car's own systems to complete a routine maneuver. Modern vehicles score better on standardized safety metrics than any previous generation. They are, however, more adversarial to operate in everyday conditions because of how aggressively these systems override your judgment. And the physical build quality tells a parallel story. Door handles falling off vehicles within the first month of ownership. Sunroofs on $60,000 and $90,000 SUVs leaking water into the cabin the first time it rains hard. A Jeep Wagoneer starting at $60,000, a Cadillac Escalade approaching $91,000, and both with documented water intrusion issues that owners discover shortly after taking delivery. These are not edge cases on high-mileage vehicles. They are first-year problems on brand-new cars that cost more than most people's annual salary. The engineering attention that could have gone into sealing a sunroof properly went into a touchscreen that requires 3 menu levels to turn down the volume while you're driving. The pattern across all of these features is consistent. Each one was presented as an advancement. Each one complicates ownership in ways that generate service revenue or regulatory credit for the manufacturer. And none of them were things drivers were asking for before manufacturers decided they should have them. The ownership model has been redesigned to extract ongoing revenue from a purchase you have already made. Planned obsolescence moved from the component level to the software layer. That makes it significantly more effective and substantially harder for buyers to identify or regulators to address. A 2026 vehicle might be in mechanically sound condition a decade from now, but if the manufacturer has stopped supporting the software platform, features begin failing without any mechanical cause. Navigation systems go dark. Safety features disable themselves. Climate controls routed through software behave unpredictably in ways that look like hardware failure, but are not. The manufacturer's suggested resolution is either an expensive dealer visit or trading your vehicle in for something newer. That second option is the intended outcome. The subscription model makes the underlying strategy explicit. A 20125 Toyota Camry includes 5 separate subscription services for features the buyer financed as part of a $42,000 transaction. Navigation, audio functions, remote start, and connected services all sit behind subscription tiers that expire when your free trial period ends. The hardware is physically installed in the vehicle. You paid for it at the point of sale. Software decides whether you can actually use it. The gradual industry-wide rollout is deliberate because a sudden universal shift would generate organized consumer pressure that forces real change. Slow normalization is the more effective path. The financial picture for buyers has deteriorated in every direction at once. Repair costs have risen 59% over the past decade. Average vehicle prices have hit record levels, while loan terms stretch to 7 and 8 years just to keep monthly payments manageable. A minor fender bender that cost around $800 to fix 10 years ago now regularly runs $3,000 or more, because your bumper integrates cameras, radar sensors, and calibrated systems that all require replacement and recalibration after any significant contact. Insurance carriers understand this and have built it into your premiums. The monthly payment on your new vehicle is no longer an accurate picture of what ownership actually costs, and that gap has been widening for a decade. Independent repair shops are being locked out of the market through software access restrictions. Modern vehicles require manufacturer-specific diagnostic tools to perform even basic service. Manufacturers are restricting access to those tools. While automotive lobbying groups fight right to repair legislation in state after state, every repair routed exclusively through a dealership generates revenue at manufacturer-controlled margins, leaving you without competitive alternatives. The proprietary software requirement is not a natural byproduct of vehicle complexity. It is a deliberate business decision with a specific financial purpose. The result is a market where owning a vehicle for 20 years has effectively been engineered out of reach. Previous generations bought a car, maintained it through independent mechanics they trusted, and drove it for 15 or 20 years with straightforward economics. That model depended on the ability to access, diagnose, and repair your vehicle without manufacturer permission. The software gatekeeping being built into the current generation of vehicles makes that kind of long-term ownership mathematically difficult for most buyers and practically impossible for anyone without dealership-level access to proprietary diagnostic tools. And if you understand what you are giving up with newer models, the growing demand for vehicles made before 2020 makes complete sense. A well-maintained 2015 or 2016 truck is a simpler, more durable ownership position than a newer model that carries subscription dependencies, software obsolescence risk, and repair requirements that lock out the independent mechanics who are often your most accessible and most affordable option. The data being collected from your vehicle while you drive is not buried in fine print. It is a core part of how this industry generates ongoing revenue. General Motors collected driving behavior data from OnStar customers and sold it to data brokers, including Lexus, Nexus, and Verisk. Those companies converted individual driving records into risk scores that insurance carriers used to justify premium adjustments. One driver requested his data file and found a daily entry logged as a near-miss collision event. The actual incident was his cat running toward the carport as he pulled in each evening. That behavioral data was packaged, sold, and built into a risk profile that directly influenced his insurance rates. His rates went up. Car insurance costs have risen more than 40% since 2019. And while rising vehicle prices and broader inflation are part of that story, the telemetry flowing from your vehicle through data brokers to insurers is playing a documented and growing role in how your premiums get calculated. Usage-based insurance programs add another layer. They are marketed as discount opportunities for safe drivers. They involve monitoring devices that collect behavioral data and feed it into risk profiles that can justify rate increases rather than reductions. The information gets applied in ways that you technically consented to without meaningful understanding of what you are agreeing to. These programs are expanding across the industry as standard offerings, not optional alternatives. The cameras embedded in current vehicles extend the data collection further than most owners realize. High-definition rear-view systems in newer models are optically zoomed to levels that let you clearly see the faces of people sitting in vehicles more than a car length behind you. Your acceleration patterns, braking events, location history, and driving profiles are governed by privacy policies running to thousands of words that nobody actually reads. Consumer advocates consistently describe that consent as neither meaningfully informed nor freely given. Electric vehicles were positioned as a simpler, more autonomous ownership experience. Fewer moving parts, lower maintenance requirements. Instead, they have created a different set of manufacturer control through battery management systems and charging infrastructure governed entirely through software. Tesla has reduced battery capacity through remote updates on vehicles that were fully paid. Other manufacturers are building equivalent capability into their own platforms. The autonomy that electric vehicle ownership was supposed to represent has been replaced by manufacturer dependence that reaches further into core vehicle function than traditional ownership ever required. The complexity argument does not fully explain the quality failures showing up in combustion vehicles either. These companies have been building internal combustion engines for close to 100 years. The lifter failures, the electrical gremlins appearing before 50,000 miles, the transmission problems across multiple brands are not the result of technology nobody understands yet. They are the result of cost decisions made during engineering and production, components sourced at the lowest acceptable price point, and testing timelines compressed to hit model year deadlines. You are the final quality control stage in that process, and you are paying record prices for the privilege. The automotive market is selling a fundamentally different ownership proposition than it was 15 years ago at higher prices and with lower documented reliability. The quality problems accumulating in service bays and consumer satisfaction surveys are not accidents. They are the result of deliberate decisions about what vehicles should be, how long they need to last, and what the relationship between manufacturer and buyer looks like after you have signed the paperwork. The manufacturers that hear from buyers clearly enough do respond. But understanding what you are actually purchasing when you finance a new vehicle is the starting point for any of that pressure to mean anything. The cars on the lots today reflect the priorities of the companies that built them. And those priorities have very little to do with how long your vehicle runs after you drive it off the lot.